Raymond, and all other family members. Because when all is said and done, they have lost a father, they've lost a grandfather, they've lost a great-grandfather. So our condolences are with them at this particular moment. The second point I would like to say is that we are really dealing with the history of a very broad-based figure. President Moi was a man from very humble beginnings. And to this I can attest in the sense that in Baringo, where he started his teaching career and where he was born himself, there was an opportunity for my father, the late Moses Mudavadi, to stay with him, with my mother. And over time I was told of how Moi would do the most simple things, like even preparing firewood for his homestead, so that they can use it for energy, for cooking and so forth, because they were neighbors. And this is a story that my mother narrated to me, that he was a very simple man, and nobody would have ever imagined that he would then rise to the highest office of this country. So a man with a lot of humility, hard-working individual, very patient, a man with a lot of resilience. Sometimes you would wonder whether his tolerance was completely elastic to the point where it would never snap. So this is Moi, and I think it is good that we can now reflect on his life. Personally, I met Moi in the early 60s when I was in primary school. We were in school with his children, and there was this good occasion that a birthday was being celebrated, and we went to his home in Cabernet Gardens, and that is the first time I had a direct contact with him. Then later, much later in life, I now met him when he eventually appointed me as a cabinet minister in his government following the demise of Mudavadi. Coincidentally, Mudavadi died on the 7th of February, and President Moi has died on the 4th of February. But these were two good friends. Now, what I would want to point out is that Moi was a stickler for detail. This is a gentleman, at least from a cabinet perspective, who would remember to make sure that he's interrogating you on a cabinet memo that he has read, and he expected you to respond to those issues, and he would know if you are trying to circumvent something or gloss over something. This is him. This man had an extraordinary memory, my friend.
Yes.
In fact, I would say that he had the memory of an elephant. Because President Moi would go to any part of the country, and he would name individuals in one of the remote villages and by name.
PC Kaguthi was telling me that
this
every morning
strange.
a PC must get a phone. Did you know?
Let me tell you, not only PCs, even us, some of us used to get those phone calls. Because Moi would wake up very early. He was a very early riser. 5 o'clock, he would be up and beginning to communicate and issue instructions and demand answers from his government. So I would not be surprised if the PCs and the DCs and some of these people would get calls at very early hours or odd hours to demand a specific answer. He's the kind of person who would wake up and tell you, I want to see you in my office at 8. But by the time you get there at 8, he has already had his meeting with the head of the security agencies. He has all the info that he would want. By the time you get there at 8, he might be telling you a lot of things about what you may have done.
Yes.
Without you realizing that you knew.
What was sitting in his cabinet like? You served in other cabinets.
I think you had to be very alert. You had to be very alert. You had to do your homework. He would never take nonsense. And if your presentation was out of the way, it would be thrown out, or he would tell you go back and bring back a better.
Musalia, people say that the most challenging time for the late president was the 82 coup. Mm-hmm. Do you have memories, recollection of how that affected him and his style of government?
Well, I think Moi had many challenges. That maybe be the most challenging, I don't know. But there were many critical issues that happened during the tenure of President Moi as president that maybe weighted differently.
Because people say he consolidated the power.
What happened is that after the 82 coup, but remember this time I was in college,
yes.
Moi was still early in his, fairly early in his presidency. And you remember there was a notion that Moi was a passing cloud. And then you remember there was a notion that Moi was a weak president or a weak leader because of how he had been handled by certain power brokers prior to his ascending to power. So I think the coup aspect of it, when you think of it, was perhaps there were some people who are still carrying the notion that he did not deserve to be the leader of the country. So clearly, as any leader would do, Moi quashed the coup attempt. And thereafter, he had to go into a process of rapid consolidation of his position as a president of this country. He did it in many ways. You remember he had to have a commission of inquiry on matters of the former Attorney General.
Yes, yes.
He then called for a snap election so that he can consolidate,
reassemble his cabinet,
and reassemble his cabinet, and he successfully.
Eventually, people say that he became very passionate about his venture for schools.
Oh yes, actually, but it is a passion that he had for a long time. Remember, his background was that he was a teacher before moving into the political world. And by the way, Tony, people forget one thing. In 1957, in the Legico, it is President Moi who moved a motion to create the Kenya National Union of Teachers. So you can see his passion for education and his passion for even having an organized education movement goes many years back.
Yes.
So the Kenya National Union of Teachers owes its existence to a motion moved by the gentleman who has left us.
So Musali, as we say kwaheri to Mzee,
yes.
What would you say as your last word to the country and as you said to his family?
I think we have to respect Moi in the sense that he always pulls surprises, but surprises for the better. And perhaps the most significant of these which come to mind, I can quickly point out two. One, in the 1991-92 period, when the global dynamics were changing, the Cold War was coming to an end, and the whole issue of transparency, accountability were beginning to become the fashion words globally. The old position that are you for the East or West was crumbling. Yes. And President Moi was able to persuade his party that it's no longer tenable to have a single party state, despite all odds, despite the choruses that were at Kasarani, that tubaki tu na chama kimoja. President Moi was able to stand up and say, sorry, my party members, as much as you want to show loyalty towards me, the reality is Kenya is bigger than the party we are talking about. And therefore, we need to accept multipartyism. That was a very significant milestone. He then served for his final 2 terms. And again, when all the rumors were there that President Moi is not going to relinquish power, when the government of the day was improving the fencing around State House, the rumor was escalated that he's putting a fence around State House so that he can barricade himself inside because he does not want to relinquish power. And this was hyped a lot by the NAC politics at that time. And remember, Moi had a preferred candidate. He would have preferred that Uhuru take over at that time. But the people of Kenya spoke differently. And they voted for Kibaki. In spite of all that, Moi left State House and drove to Uhuru Park and handed over the instruments of power to Kibaki. In spite of the humiliation and the insults, he did it. What better legacy can you leave? Now, here is a man who may have had his infractions. He's a human being. But it is clear that he played a significant role in this country, and we ought to thank him for it. And we hope we can all draw and pick up experiences from his long career.
Well, you're watching Point Blank at KTN News. His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi says a retired president, the late President Daniel Moi, bowed out at the right time, and now he has taken the final bow. It's KTN News. Good evening. You're watching a special edition of Point Blank here at KTN News. As the curtain has fallen on one of the greatest sons of the Rift Valley, it is only fitting that the governors of that region can say 1 or 2 things about the life of the late President Daniel Moi. And we have Governor Togos here, who is going to speak for and on behalf of the leadership of the region. Karibu. What, Governor, is your message to Kenyans and the family of the late President Moi?
Thank you, Tony. On behalf of the leadership of Rift Valley, all the governors, senators, members of parliament, MCAs, the former leaders who serve the region, I want to convey a message of condolences to their family and also to our president and the nation of Kenya for the demise of our beloved former President Moi, who is a pillar not only to this country, but also to the Rift Valley region. Since Moi left us yesterday, we've seen so many people testifying how Moi impacted on their lives, individually and even collectively. And that doesn't leave the leadership of Rift Valley aside. I think when you look at the current leaders, the people who are leading the region at the moment, you realize that in one way or the other, they went through Moi's hands. And me being included in that list, I think My interest in politics developed when I was at the university, and we had a lot of time with Moi. We used to visit him in State House. He saw me in Cabernet Gardens, and also he saw me in Kabarak. And I remember the things that Moi used to tell us was mainly on the interests of the nation, the interest of the community, and I think we'll never get another leader who knows every part of this country like the back of his hand. Moi, even I remember the last time I visited him in Kabarak, he used to mention by name the old men from my village, whom sometimes even I was ashamed because some of the leaders Moi used to know and the old men are people that I don't know, yet I represent the county of Elgeyo Marakwet.
Governor, if you have a message for the common man across the Rift Valley, hata kwa lugha yenyu, unaweza kuambia nini juu ya kifo ya Mzee Moi na maisha yake?
Nataka niwaambie kwanza wananchi wote wa Rift Valley, poleni kwa kupoteza mzee wetu Moi, ambaye amekuwa kiongozi wetu kama jamii ya Rift Valley mpaka wakati alituacha. Na nafikiri ile kuweka kwa ile lugha ambaye watu wetu wanaweza elewa vizuri. Kwa amechaib nafasi ni ing niaba nebo kandoik tugul chebo biikab kotet amwa mutyo eng boyot nekoru. Boyot Arap Moi ko kingen kei biikab kotet kele ole kikomutunenech Arap Moi ko loo. Biik tugul chekikere sai ko mi kandoiset nebo koroni ko kibun eunekab boyot Arap Moi. Ako kimwoe mutyo eng family nenyi nekingen kele tinye akine biik chemi leadership ku senator nebo Baringo Moi, Raymond Moi ak lagokchi tugul mogochoronik ak biikab Baringo che kiyan icheket kokone boyot kondochi emoni. So kiorogeni lakini kingen kele ole kimutech Moi anan ole kikometochech ko kimetochech ole much ketestai ak kemuch ketech emenyo koret nebo biikab kotet ak kora emoni komugul. So abaibai amwa ale kasit nekiyai Moi kotogu kou ngeng'alal nguni komosta nebo Eldoret kitinye Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital ne noto ko kikosir lagokyo chechang. Kitinye pipeline nekikere kele kikomut biik kong'ete emotinwek alak Uganda, South Sudan, biikab Rwanda chebwoni koibu rabisiek kobwa region nenyo. Kitinye Central Bank, kitinye airport nebo Eldoret ak anyun tuguk tugul chekikomuch koyai. Ko county nebo Elgeyo Marakwet kiboiboi ketinye Tambach Teachers College ak sukulishek chekimuch kotech Arap Moi. Ako nesire tugul kingen kele eng wakati nekimi ng'echeret Arap Moi ko biikab Elgeyo Marakwet keboiboi amu kikitinye kandoik chekimuch kotebi karibu ak Moi ak kimuch kotoretech kobun icheket. Nu nekikosirto Honorable Nicholas Biwott ko kingen kele ki chitab eut nebo tai nebo the late President Moi, ako through inendet ko kimuch koyai tugun chechang. So kimwoe kele mutyo ak kengen kele wendi inendet ole kararan. Mameche autie kora ng'alekab kanisosiek amu kanisa ak development kobendi pamoja. Kitech Arap Moi kanisosiek chechang, both chebo AIC, Catholic ak denomination alak chechang. So kemwoe kele kei kandoik kemeche kerub footsteps chebo boyot ak kekonyitgei ak keker kele kakibe eng oret nekararan. Ko wakati nebo sai kikere kele mi terchinet neo eng kandoik chebo kalenjin. Komeche keib kasari kebwat kele tos kine nekimeche Arap Moi, ki direction ne nekimeche koib biikab kotet sikemuch keboisie noto ak ketuiye biikyo ak kebe eng oret nekararan.
Well, you're watching a special edition of Point Blank. Those are the words, the prayers and the condolences of the leadership of the Rift Valley to the family of the late President Daniel Arap Moi. You're watching KTN News. Good evening. You're watching a special edition of Point Blank here at KTN News, following the demise of the former President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. It is actually an honor and a privilege for me to be here with my mother, Zipporah Kitoni. And Zipporah, if there is anybody who knows the Moi family and the late Moi, Mzee Moi, it is Zipporah. And from her, we will not just hear from a really passionate friend of the president, but also from a woman's point of view, about the lifetimes and the way in which President Moi touched the lives of so many. Ma'am, karibu sana to KTN News.
Asante sana.
We are proud to be here, for you to be here.
Thank you.
Where do we start remembering Mzee Moi, Ma'am?
First and foremost is for me to thank Almighty God for giving us Mzee Moi. To talk about him will need me a full day or more. Mzee Moi was born in Baringo district in 1924, as you've seen in the media. And Mzee Moi was born in a small village, Sacho, in Baringo Central. And thereafter, because it was early days, he came to know a few Christians. He went to Kabartonjo, and later on he came to Kabarnet and my home. And so when I grew up as a young girl, seeing Moi in our home, so I do not...
With Ruben Chesire, that is what was...
I was born in 1943, and when you count those years, then you really know that it's been a movement. So being involved, you know, Baringo has a history of its own. And I want to say we thank God because of Moi having opened up Baringo. Baringo first and foremost was a closed district. So opening up was a few spotted Christianity in Kabartonjo, in Eldama Ravine and Kabropita. So Moi later moved to Kabropita after Kabartonjo and then to Tambaj. So it's been a long journey. And for me, when I say I thank God for his life, because he has opened up a closed district, he has opened up us in Baringo to know the world, to be in the world map, and many, many things. So I fondly remember him.
You know, Mom, even when I've been to your farm to stay, I saw you had a special chair for Moi in your house.
every home we have one, because he's been part of the family. First and foremost, he's been a father, he is a friend, and he's the president. And I have also worked very closely with him. So he's been part of our life.
When you got involved a bit earlier, Mom, even when you were working with Women Matters and so on, Moi seemed very passionate about schools, Women Matters.
I don't want to go to the women issue first. Let us, first of all, know this man. This man, as I said, he got involved with early Christianity, the missionaries that came. And he made Christianity part of his life. And because my family was very religious also, I was brought up from very strict Christian background. And that is how Moi interacted with us because of Christianity. And that is how Baringo opened up, because many people got to know Jesus Christ through my family and through Moi. And so many things have happened. We went to walking from Sacho. We didn't have any mode of transportation, by the way. There were no roads. And he walked everywhere he was going. I even to Tambat, even to Kapsapet. And even for us, when I went to school in Kapsapet in 1955, it took us 3 days by lorry to meander the Kerio Valley to Tambaj, to get another clearance to Eldoret and to Nandi. Kapsabet Girls was the only girls' school in Rift Valley. So that's what happened. So really there is so much to be said for this great man who has fallen, who has inspired many Kenyans, many people in his life, not only Kenya, in the world, and the family at large. So we in the family, as we are mourning, it's painful. We have accepted that God's will has been done, but we want to remember the legacy that he has left behind, which cannot be described, because I asked you, give you just a short time to talk about him, because I cannot sit at the background, even if I'm not feeling well, because I have so much good things to talk about him. So for me, I have said I have very fond memories about him. First, he's very human, very loving father. I remember eating his lovely chapatis. He made chapatis because when he got married, I went to stay with him and Mama. And so when Mzee was having a free time, he would make us very nice chapati. And that day, utashiba. And indeed, he was a father and a real home person, very humorous. And so many, many things that I will say I will never forget in my life. But my happiness this afternoon, as I mourn him, is that I will never forget the life and the good times that I've shared with him. And when I now come to women, I worked with him for 24 years. And I also want to tell you, Tony, that from Kenyatta, we became Kanu. I am Kanu, and I'm still Kanu until my days are over, because I am happy that I have not let him down in his sleep, because you've seen many people jumping from this corner to the other corner. So during my time working with him, he's a very hardworking, and he had his network.
And there's a good reason I'm bringing the issue of the women issue, because you played a very big role yourself. But even Sally Kosgei, if you actually go behind what Moi began to do, what people are calling affirmative action now, or the need for gender, it seems that Moi alianza hapo mapema, because they are very powerful women. At the time, you were head of the women movement in this country. And if you look at people like Sally Kosgei, who was head of government.
What many people, I want people to remember this, that Mzee had a nia, and he had a passion for women. So during my leadership, whenever we took any issue to him, he would listen and he would immediately act. We did not have to delay. If you remember, there was one time he appointed 15 women to the parastatals. The first woman to be appointed minister was during our time going to Beijing, that's Nyiva Mwendo. And because we went to Mzee and we told Mzee, we are not going to go to Beijing with the man minister. And he acted, he gave us Nyiva Mwendo. And so he had a nia and he had a passion, and that is how he gave children milk, because he loved children and their mothers. So many people have seen giving the condolences around the country. They are appreciating taking Nyayo milk. So that's something to be remembered. So even the women of Kenya should remember that Moi had an ear for them, and he listened to their grievances and he acted upon them. He appointed many women. The first woman to be appointed in the army was through Moi's time. So many, many appointments opened the door for women for leadership was during Moi's time. So we are really indeed indebted to him, and that's why I became very loyal to him, because he never let me down at any one time on our request when we put issues that relate to women to the table. And for me again, when the women cried that their families are getting disintegrated and lost because of illicit busa, Mzee eradicated busa and families got saved. So how can we forget such a person really in our lives? So for me, I will live to remember the good things that Moi did in life,
yes,
of Kenyans, of women, and our children.
One more thing I may ask you, and I know you're not feeling very well today. He was remembered, or this thing of peace, love, and unity, the idea of a cohesive country was something that Moi kept speaking about. And as the country now goes through all the challenges it will go, what would be the lesson that Kenyans would learn
What I want Kenyans to do is to remember the quality of leadership that Moi carried on. He had his network. When I talk of network, he would get the security briefings every morning. I remember waking up at 5 in the morning, calling me to State House, and he asked me, how is Mama, what's happening in Kwale with Mama Lima Chivumbe, the late? I said, I looked lost. And I said, Mzee, I don't know. Mzee already had a information. He had a way of getting his information. He had an immense network of the NSIS as well as his own trusted lieutenants throughout the country. So from that day, I dared not to touch any wine and go to sleep because you didn't know when he would call you. So I said, for God forbid. But I could not give an answer, and I got very, very embarrassed. So there are so many things to remember, and I remember with joy that Mzee had a big heart for all of us, for Kenyans and international community. And we as a family, let me tell you, he was a fatherhead. He impressed upon each one of us. We loved him dearly, but we will miss him dearly. But I want to tell Kenyans and my family and the people of Baringo to uphold the qualities of his leadership and respect all what Moi has done. Name it, Nyayo words, everything that he did is in our minds. So it is upon Kenya to really embrace that kind of leadership. I get very embarrassed as a mother now, as a grandmother, as a great-grandmother, when I see young boys, not of your age, but younger than you, Tony, abusing this president. There are nights I don't sleep. We need to have decorum and respect for humanity and for our country. Kenya was a very popular country, respected, but we are eroding it because we are losing our manners. We don't know and we don't have respect for leadership. So I think I'm really saying, let this be a lesson. Having lost Mzee now, because I was saying it's better even when he's sleeping, if he's not talking, we know he's there. So let us give respect in terms of leadership and to ourselves as a country and as a people.
So, Mami, as we come to the end of your discussion, you did mention President Moi was a very strong Christian value. And I'm sure you have a word either of scripture or prayer to end this discussion. I'm saying as we end my interview with you, umesema Mzee Moi and you are tied together on Christian issues.
Yes.
I wanted you to say something, to funge with something Christian, either a short prayer, a small thing of scripture as we bring the interview to an end.
In Ephesians, I am talking of respect.
Yes.
In Ephesians 6, it says, children, respect your parents, and therefore you will be blessed. So for us as Kenyans, especially the young people of this country, let us impress respect upon ourselves so that this country will be blessed. And if we continue working at this direction, we don't want to be cursed. I don't even know why we have locusts in this country now. There are so many mistakes we've committed. So I want to say, let us come back, check ourselves, let's do self-audit on our mistakes and correct. The PPI, which I didn't want to come in, is an opportune moment for us to discuss what we need for the future of this country. And I want to thank also the President and all those who have supported the initiative. Kenya needs to recollect itself. So now that we've lost the figurehead of respect, let us wake up to reality.
Well,
I want to end by saying that we would like to thank all Kenyans who have sent us so many messages of condolences. We cannot even remember them. They are everywhere. Our telephones are jammed. Every channel is being used. So it shows how Mzee was a man of the people. And indeed, we will miss him.
You're watching Point Blank here at KTN News with Mama Zipporah Gitoni, remembering the life and times of the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. And from all of us here at KTN News with her, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Mom, asante sana for coming.
Thank you, my son.
Asante.
Thank
na poleni sana kama familia.
Asante.
You're watching KTN News.
This is KTN News.
To unite Kenyans, if you want to bring Kenyans together and to stop divisive elections, corruption, and build national ethos, then you must drop your personal ambitions.
We need to put the interests of the people first. If you're sitting in an agricultural committee in parliament, if you're in the budget committee, which resources have you allocated to sort out that coffee problem and that tea problem?
Do you have a vision? Is it there? Do you have momentum? Is it there?
Anybody trying to take us back to the dark days, I am not going to allow that as a chamber president.
You cannot possibly begin to worry me when I'm alive. What he's telling you is keep your position,
Yes.
let me keep mine.
But why say it in words? What you can say in music. My brother,